Hey everyone, it's your favorite neighborhood arsonist. Much better now. After a job well done, I feel like celebrating with one of my favorite games, Divinity Original Sin 2. This is a game where the main magic system is based off a pun and a combat system where if everyone isn't on fire, you're probably doing something wrong. This game has it all. Interesting roleplay, in-depth character customization, cannibalism, a combat system that begs to be abused, and did I mention the fire? Good gosh, there is just so much fire! You fire up the game and are immediately hit by a cutscene of some lady casting sorcery and getting herself thrown in the slammer on purpose. Despite being in the opening cutscene, she's not even important to the story, and without some basic background info, the game could be a bit confusing. So here's the rundown. Magic is in this world, and anyone could do it, and it's totally accepted. But sorcery, now that's some freaky stuff only those who could tap into source can use. The reason it's very frowned upon is it seems to be what's summoning all these evil bug monsters into the world that are killing everyone. So the magic cops, the magisters, brought it upon themselves to arrest, collar, and imprison anyone who could use source to the fun party prison island of Fort Joy. And if it's any less fun than advertised, you're just gonna have to pretend it is, as the game starts with your character waking up on a one-way trip to Magic Alcatraz. There's also a few things you should know from the previous game, like Brachus Rex, the mad ruler who twisted the forms of his enemies and followers alike into the creatures you will encounter.
Brachus Rex! God damn you to this hell in which I suffer!
Don't worry, he's dead now. And then there's Lucian, chosen by the gods to wield their divine power to set everything right. Don't worry, he's dead now. There's one playable character for each of the different races: human, lizard, dwarf, elf, undead, and ginger. You can guess which one is possessed by the devil. First we got Ifan, an assassin for the shady as hell lone wolves that are all about taking down the Godwoken. Funny thing is, Ifan's a Godwoken himself now, so just about everybody hates him. But you know what? Ifan doesn't need anybody. Ifan could summon a spirit wolf, which is far better than any ally. Seriously, this wolf is kinda better than any playable character. Then we got the Red Prince, who's loved by a small following and hated by literally everybody else, and for good reason. Not only did this pretentious prick summon demons in the middle of the kingdom, he never shuts his damn lizard mouth. Dude will talk down to every and anyone, including the rest of your party. And if he didn't already have an inflated ego, being a red lizard folk, there's a prophecy that he may or may not be the key to returning dragons to the land, and on top of being royalty and Godwoken, he's basically a walking deviant art OC character. Next we got Sybil, the edgiest edgelord to ever edge. She's my favorite, mostly cause she'll stab the Red Prince dead the second she sees you trying to recruit him. And you know what? I don't blame her one bit. The elves in this game are known for being stuck up, racist, and generally violent, and that's not even getting into the whole cannibalism thing yet. Sybil subverts these stereotypes by openly embracing them and is toxic to everyone every time she has the chance to open her mouth. Even Sybil's personal god hates Sybil. Fane is the undead guy who thinks he's better than everyone else, mostly because he's undead. Fane is the kind of guy to sit on a sinking ship full of people and go, "Don't worry everyone, I don't need to breathe." For a guy who can't show his face in any town, he somehow has an ego that rivals the Red Prince's. I mean that in the most literal sense. Everyone hates Fane so much he must cover his face to hide his undead nature. Unless you were looking for an excuse to massacre the entire town in justified self-defense. Losi is a fair bit different than the rest of the cast, not only because she is ginger, but she actually makes some small efforts to not be a huge asshole and be kind to those around her. That is, until the demon inside her busts out and turns her good intentions into atrocities. See, while the other jokers are chosen by the gods, Losi got possessed by some demon, and on top of being a generally evil dude, he has impeccable comedic timing. And this is Beast. He's a dwarf and a pirate.
Ahoy!
He's maybe the one guy everybody doesn't hate, but he's also boring, which is worse. His cousin is also a pirate, and a much better one than him, which is why she is the queen, and all of his friends are dead. Predictably, he wants to kill her, and hopefully it will go better than the last time he tried. To sum up, they are all terrible people, and it's your job to make one of them the new divine of this world. Unless you create one of the custom characters, in which case the only person who will hate you is me. Seriously, Don't do that. While you choose one character to specifically play as, you can recruit up to 3 other of these characters to play as well, assuming they don't try to kill you first. And while you have full control of them as much as your own character, remember, they aren't your character. Only one person could ascend to divinity, and your god won't be too subtle about reminding you of this. Even the smaller things could cause major beef between your party members. The sleeping lizard man could help the Red Prince on his personal quest of prophecy, but only if Sybil doesn't get to him first on her personal mission of revenge on every helpful NPC. And let me tell you, Ifan's whole organization of assassins is also on that list, so you can imagine this might cause some conflict between the two of them. You can't make everyone happy, so you will be forced into situations where you must choose which of your characters you love the least. In combat, Divinity plays out as a turn-based RPG, but I use that term loosely. Yeah, you could march your team into the pirate stronghold, introduce yourself politely, and get blasted to Kingdom Come, but much more fun and effective is to send just one person in to hold up the turn-based combat while sneaking the rest of your party around in not at all suspicious barrels, and have them all pop out and sneak attack one at a time, giving you a positional advantage and a free attack as your characters join the turn order. If that doesn't work, just try leaving. The Magisters legally can't kill your rogue if your rogue isn't there. Remember, it takes 2 to murder, the murderer and the murderee. As the rest of your party is still in turn-based combat, your rogue is free to heal up, do some shopping, maybe get in a different fight or something, and return back to the combat before a single turn is passed. This is playing the game as intended. When you do finally get around to taking actual turns, you got 4 AP to divvy up between your continuously growing list of magical abilities and walking. Most abilities use up 2 AP, and the AP of walking ranges from 3 feet to even thinking about walking. The good news is all the enemies you fight are limited by the same system. The bad news is they are much better at it than you will be. The main trick to the game is holding onto your abilities for when they will be most effective. Most enemies, from alligators to eldritch abominations, have armor and magic resist. As long as they have even a single point in these bars, anything you do besides try to damage them isn't happening. But the second these bars are empty, everything you do works. Knock them down, set them on fire, poison them, set their blood on fire, cut their tendons, boil them, mash them, put them in a stew. Nothing is off the table. From the faceless grunts to story-critical villains, you are welcome to try to turn anybody into a chicken. Just keep in mind, all of that applies to you as well. While each character comes with a few innate abilities, you are completely able to build any of them any which way you want. So the wolf summoning guy story-wise is a sniping assassin, but why not put all of his points into summoning and make the wolf stronger? The nerdy skeleton guy may suggest you let him focus on magic, but if you want to see him swing a sword, go ahead and slap him on the front line. It's only here he can make the most use out of the best ability in the game, playing dead. After all, he's a skeleton guy, he already looks dead. Speaking of environment, the land of Divinity is one giant OSHA violation with barrels of oil and poison littered around everywhere like a gender reveal party gone horribly wrong. Both you and your enemies can use the environment to your advantage, and all the different elements can interact in surprising ways, but always, inevitably, ends with everything on fire. Water and electricity will stun everyone in the puddle. Water and ice will turn the combat into a Three Stooges skit. Oil explodes. Poison explodes. I'm sure you can figure out a way to make water explode. Every time you level up, you get points for which of the main 6 stats you want to increase. For strength, dex, intelligence, and constitution, you can guess what they do. Memory is how many spells or abilities you can have equipped at once. Everybody wants this, except for the archers, who will only get distracted from right-clicking everything dead. And wits is crit chance, so it's good on 2 builds at most. But it's also useful for finding hidden passageways, so you will want at least one of those builds on your team. On top of that, you have talents, civil points, and combat points. Combat points will mostly get you better at what weapons or spells you use. Civil points are your usual things like stealth, persuasion, and bartering, but a few odd things like telekinesis, because why bother bonking people with your sword when you can throw a heavy barrel of death fog at them instead? Give your strength character enough telekinesis and the world is your weapon, and it's never not funny. Last are the talents, which are by far the most interesting. Want to talk to animals? Boom! Get ready for the best voice acting you've ever heard.
Thank you.
Allies dying too much? Take Soul Catcher and automatically bring them up as a meat shield zombie. Possibly the most important talent is Lone Wolf, as it pretty much doubles the power of your character but halves your party size. I entirely recommend this for your first solo playthrough, as managing 4 characters is a real chore, and decision fatigue kicks in real quick when you have 1 pair of shoes for 4 barefoot heroes. The world of Divinity is a pretty wild one. It could be pretty daunting as you are dropped off in a prison island and told, figure it out. But once you start to get accustomed to it, there's so much to discover. There's a lot of branching paths to reach your goals, most coming from a natural progression of exploring rather than missions which unlock ways forward. This is good as the story progresses so much more naturally, assuming you aren't a completionist looking for every fight on the map.
No, wait.
This is bad as it's easy to get lost in what you should do next to further a particular storyline, the journal is little to no help, and of course, you are a murder hobo looking for every fight on the map.
Okay, I'ma fight this crab. Damn, crab got hands.
The races in Divinity are a mix of expected tropes and some real wild out there stuff. Humans are plain and vanilla, dwarves are short and beardy, and then lizards are tall, arrogant nobles who might be descendants of dragons, and for sure are junkies who use drugs to see glimpses of the future in their dreams. Then there are the elves, who are part tree cannibals. That's right, part tree cannibals. Not just in lore either, eating your dead foes and absorbing their memories and powers is a vital game mechanic. Remember, when someone is racist to you when playing an elf, it might be because one of your kind ate a sibling of theirs. Crazy stuff. The game also has a full crafting and cooking system, but really, it's there as an excuse to fill your inventory with as much crap as possible that technically has a use. Other than crafting a couple special arrows for an archer character or combining different kinds of spellbooks together, I've never seriously had a need for this pretty huge part of the game. Maybe I'm missing out, but this game keeps showering me with wooden sword recipes and I really just don't care. Something else to note, the game is borderline unplayable in its base state. Luckily, the developers understand this and have included a grab bag of add-ons built into the game to make it a less miserable experience. The most important one is Endless Runner, which will give you a spell that doubles your move speed, from grandma to grandma on crack. It slightly messes with some sneaking balance, but this game is slow enough without taking minutes just to go from one side of a town to another. After that, there's a few add-ons for quality of life improvements, a few for making the game tougher, and a few that make things a little easier. There's one that just straight up gives your whole party the animal speaking talent, likely because the developers realized too many players were blasting through the game without appreciating all the work they put into their animal voice acting.
You are truly heartless! Curse you, Ruckus Rex!
There's one for letting you edit your character. Normally, every choice you make when leveling up is permanent, so this lets you experiment a bit more without being too abusable. And then there's one that lets you revive your allies by sleeping on their corpse. It is so very abusable. Normally when an ally dies, you have to use an expensive revive scroll on them, or you have to reload a save. However, with this turned on, you just need to survive with only one character for the fight to be considered a complete victory. Oh, also this game is completely multiplayer. Controlling a whole team yourself is fine, but things go so much faster with a group of friends playing a character each. Nothing takes the whole theme of my companions are my frenemies more than fighting with other players over a piece of loot, like the worn boots are going to be a deciding factor in the final battle. While you have to completely cooperate to get anywhere in the game, it suddenly becomes a free-for-all once the last enemy drops and it becomes looting time. Honestly, it's by far the best way to experience the game. It also makes it far more interesting when your characters each have opposing goals. It makes for an interesting dynamic as everybody struggles to finish their own character's quest, while the solo player is finishing her quest of killing all the story important NPCs. So there you have it. I have over 200 hours playing this monster of a game, and almost all of it in Fort Joy, starting over and over again with various combinations of friends. It's unintuitive, slow, clunky, and I could not recommend it more. What I will recommend more is checking out more videos from my channel. They are all just as bad, if not worse. Please watch them.
She never did like you.